Hello, people. This is Mac with Mac Commentary and Bob. Hey, how are you today, Bob?
I'm doing real good, Mac. Thank you. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. Yeah, we've heard some things to come out here lately. Ice Cube came out with a video on his channel, and I'm gonna play that right now, Bob, and then we're gonna come back and talk about it. What he's actually getting into is about some problems he's having with his big three club basketball league that he 3-on-3 basketball league that he started. I don't know, a year or two ago. And they were doing quite well last year, I understand. But let's see what he's talking about here, Bob, and we'll come back and discuss it.
Yo, what's cracking? You know what it is. It's your homeboy Ice Cube. And some of you may not have realized that I'm not part of the club. And a lot of you listening to me right here, right now, you're not part of the club either. And what I realized with the club is what makes them so mad is when you don't want to be a part of their fucking club. That pisses them off. What club am I talking about? I'm talking about the club of gatekeepers that we all got to deal with. You know who they are, and they definitely know who they are. A lot of people would be like, what, who? Come on, man, stop playing. So ever since I put out the contract with Black America, you know they've been fucking with me. Here and there, this and that. But it's cool, you know. I expect that. You know, I've been working with, on the big three for a long time. And you know how they've been fucking with me with that. I done made it, plain, simple, and clear what they've been doing. The NBA been fucking with us. Now, a lot of people might say, like, well, but Cube, you want to work with the NBA. Really, I don't give a fuck about working with the NBA. What I want them to do, when I say work with us, is to stop working against us. Stop doing that bullshit behind the scenes that we know you're doing. Mainstream media, they ain't fucking with us. And that's cool. We can do it ourselves, you know what I'm saying? We still on the rise without these motherfuckers. So we don't need them, you don't need them. So what am I gonna do? Deal with these motherfucking gatekeepers. Well, what I'm gonna do is go on a Fuck the Gatekeepers podcast tour. And I'm gonna go talk to everybody, and get a chance to get my message out to the people. Be able to let people hear from me, and you might agree, you might not, but the important thing is, for me to go on these platforms, say what I feel about what I think. And, some people may get pissed off because I'm going to talk to everybody. I'm not playing. And it's gonna be a crazy summer. It's gonna be fun. Appreciate y'all. Always support the big three. Hopefully I'm doing stuff that you guys dig. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for people that's bored as fuck in the summer with summer sports and want something cool like the big three. So here we are. Appreciate you. Much love, much respect from your homeboy Ice Cube. Remember that.
Okay, Bob, that was That was Ice Cube there talking about
So everybody, put the middle fingers high in the sky.
his what's going on with him and his big three. He was ranting about what was happening with the gatekeepers, and you know who the gatekeepers he's talking about. He's talking about the people that own the NBA, and he's talking about the Democratic Party. I mean, he threw it all in there, Bob. How they came after him, after he met with Trump, back in 2020 when Biden told him that he would not meet with him until after the election. But that's what he was talking about, the contract with the blacks.
Uh huh.
So that's what he was making reference to. And Bob, it just comes to my mind when I think about these guys like Ice Cube, Kanye West, Byron Allen, and others. But those three right there are the ones that's the most recently been going on tours, podcasts, and various medias to try to get the support of blacks. And I think that's what he's trying to do there, is also engender the help of the black community for his plight there that he's having with the so-called gatekeepers that he didn't identify directly, but everybody know who he's talking about. He's talking about the music moguls type people that control the NBA teams, and he's talking about the Democratic Party, and when these guys like him, and then you have Byron Allen, and I may show a clip of him. And he talks about what he has, he went to the black people also when he had his beef with Comcast and Charter. I mean, Comcast at Xfinity. And he went around, and then he also had, that was back in maybe 2019, because he started that lawsuit there with Comcast, and he sued him for $20 billion back in February of 2015. And there's a settlement was announced somewhere around June of 2020. Now, I don't remember him coming back talking to black people after he got his settlement there, or anything like that. And then when he had he had another problem with, well, first of all, go back into the one with Comcast there. With I believe that his case with them dealt with. Well, first of all, let's say Allen. He owns Entertainment Studios Network. He tried to negotiate with Comcast and Charter Communication for slots on their systems for 7 of his channels, including Pets.TV, Cars.TV, and Comedy.TV. Both companies expressed some interest, but ultimately they told him they already carried other similar channels. When the talks ended with no deal, Allen filed lawsuits in Los Angeles against both companies, seeking billions of dollars in damages and alleging racial discrimination. Allen pointed out that Comcast had given slots to lesser-known channels produced by white-owned companies. Allen also alleged a Comcast executive has said, we're not trying to create any more Bob Johnsons. They're referring to billionaire African-American founder of Black Entertainment Television, Robert Johnson. Now, they fought this here thing out in the courts there and the lower court, the federal court, and we're not going to go into all those details, but they went on to the Ninth Circuit Court, and they kind of upheld, overruled the one court there. But anyway, they had to. No, I think they found in favor of Allen. But then Comcast, they took it to the Supreme Court. And so, Bob, what happened there is the Supreme Court sent it back down to the lower court. And so I think at that time, Allen was going to probably just drop the thing because, But anyway, in June of 2020, now remember, this is part when the pandemic was going on, Bob. And this was also the time when all this here riots and stuff was going on. And that's also during the time, I think, Bob Johnson, when he said that the government should pay black slave descendants $350,000 each for a total of $14 trillion. And also there was also during the time George Floyd was of Minneapolis was killed by a policeman up there. So amid all of this happening right here, Comcast, they settled the case with Allen. Now, we don't know what happened there, but there was a statement put out by Comcast Cable's senior vice president. He said, "We are pleased to have reached a multifaceted agreement that continues our long relationship with the Weather Channel, which is owned by Allen, while bringing Xfinity customers additional content." So anyway, that was all part of what was happening during that time, that pandemic, 2020, with the uproar, uprising, so to speak, of that around George Floyd. So they came out and they said, okay, we're going to go in and settle something here, work out something here with this $20 billion lawsuit. I don't know what he got. They didn't disclose any funds or anything. But we didn't hear anything else from Allen about that. You know what I mean? So now Allen has a case against McDonald's for not advertising with black media. So this is a multi-billion-dollar, $60 billion lawsuit or something like that he has. Now, they were supposed to go to trial May 30th of this year. I don't know what the results of that, Bob, but I will. I tried to look up something on that, and I wasn't too successful. But the point that I'm making with all of this here, Bob, is that these guys, whatever happened, look what happened to Kanye West. He came and ran to the black community for Adidas is after me. We got to, and everybody want to quit buying it. All the blacks said they were going to quit buying Adidas. I mean, and so this guy's still worth $500 million, Bob. And I looked and I saw that he had this fashion company out there in Los Angeles, building out there, where he would go and see what part of the issue with Kanye, he identified the Jews as being his problem. And when they sent this one Jewish guy there to start dating his wife, that really ticked him off, and that made him go berserk because this guy was a real family man, But he got over it, That's why he got on all these things and talked about it. Once he met this other woman, now now I think he's gotten married to her. Last thing I read, but he had this building out there in Los Angeles, and in that building, I noticed that all the employees there, I saw one black guy that worked there. Everybody else was white, Bob, women. There might have been some men in there too, white men. But I was just telling you, these people, they go and they want the black community to support them for when they want things and they feel like, oh, this is going to benefit black people. You know, if I win this lawsuit, like Allen was saying that if he won, oh, this goes back to the law of 1866, where blacks are able to enter into contracts as well, and all that type of stuff, and it's going to benefit blacks, But none of these guys, Bob, they are, to me, it's what we talked about once before. They are just they've gotten big, so they are bigger. They are bigger Negroes. As you say, bigger niggas. That's what they have become. But they don't want us around when they all out there. They all big. They look down on us. And no matter what they say, I like to see some results, because I just want to say this, Bob. I'm gonna let you cut in there. Is that when you have guys like that, why should they be so concerned about what these other guys out there who's made it big? They got a captive audience. If they played to that audience and tried to lift that audience up with them, and I'm talking about the black people. If they came in into the communities, why should we have all these other ethnic groups in our communities running small businesses in there, when these guys here could get together, put together $100 million for investment and do it right, get the right attorneys, the right accountants, and marketing people, and structure up an organization where they go in and they help and infiltrate the black communities and put businesses in there. Work with the people in the community, like the pastors and other civic leaders, and get them all on the same page and telling the people, hey, we are here to help. We're going to uplift this community. We're going to build this community up. We're going to give jobs. And eventually we're going to even have some factories in here. Why? And yet they are not focusing on that. Like Bob Allen out there in California with all of his media that he's doing. How is that going to benefit that person down there on Mack Avenue, Bob? Or on Peachtree there in Atlanta, or Pinona there in Macon, or Harlem in New York? How that it's going to benefit those actors and who's out there already making money, people that he hand select to put in there. I mean, true enough, I bet you go out there and see. I don't know. I don't know this for a fact, but I like to know how many blacks does he really employ in that industry, Bob. But these are the same thing with Ice Cube. I mean, how many blacks he got doing anything with him? We already looked at Kanye. He has none that I can see. So my thing is this the bigger nigger syndrome, Bob? This is what is happening now, that these people don't have any compassion for their race to try to uplift us and try to build an economic base within that we can be independent of any other economic aspects in the society. I mean, we all have to probably lean on each other. They have to lean on us. We have to lean on them a little bit. But we'll be independent. They just can't come and take stuff from us or do us any kind of way, because we will have our own economic, and we won't let it happen and go by the way as it did with the Black Wall Street. But these guys are in a pivotal time in history. These guys can do something, Bob, if they take the lead. But no, they all so selfish, man. Egotistical. What do you think, Bob?
Well, Mac, the more I look at this, the more I understand what I have felt for a number of years now. The Negroid in America is the biggest hole that America has. And these young fellows that you're talking about, if you look at their history, they come from the pimp crowd. So they know about pimping. And they're just little pimps. And they're pimped by the bigger pimps. And what upsets them is that they are pimped by the bigger pimps. But they know that the hoes out here, us, Black America, is so gullible that we're an easy take for the pimps. So that's what they do. They make their billion or 500 million or whatever that is, and they get upset because the bigger pimp is making 5 or 10 billion, or maybe even $1 trillion. That's all it is. It's so they complain to the hoes, us out here in the street, and say, okay, hoes, y'all got to come to my rescue. That's what a pimp does. He don't have anybody else to support him but his hoes. And that's what the American Negroid is. The hoe for everybody. Anybody that wants to get some, go to the Negroid. And that's what's happening. And the pimp is upset, as I said, and I don't like to repeat myself, but all of those guys that you just identified, and call themselves gatekeepers, call their competitors gatekeepers. Those guys are not their competitors. Those guys are their pimps. And they're pissed off at their pimp because they can't get to the top of the heap. If they were at the top of the heap, you wouldn't hear anything from them. You know, when the pimp gave up $2 or $3 to them and settle those court cases, you didn't hear him come back and say anything about that, because the pimp let him know, look, I'm going to give you this much money, and I want you to take this and keep your mouth shut. And that's what they did. That's how they operate, because they're little pimps. You know, they come from the street. They know what it is on the street, and it don't have nothing to do with the Negroid who's trying to just eke out a living in America. I mean, those of us that are the product of the pimp society that America is, and that's America. I mean, America is the biggest pimp on the block. I saw it as a kid. And I could go up to the pool hall, and pimps would be they would walk in, and they would defer to each other. And that's what you have going on here. Only these guys are upset, and very rarely did I see pimps get into actual fisticuffs with each other. They would jaw jack or talk a lot of nonsense with each other in front of spectators like us young fellas sitting in the pool room, but very rarely did you see them get into fights. They have their hosts fight for them, and that's what happens in America. America, you don't see these politicians fighting for liberty, give me liberty or give me death. They send their hoes out there. And it doesn't matter whether you're a Caucasoid hoe or a Negroid hoe, but I'm talking about Negroid hoes. And these guys that are the pimps, I'll call them little pimps. They saw the same kind of scenarios that I saw as a youngster, and that's all they're trying to do is implement some of the education that they got from the bigger pimps out here in the street today, and
Right.
they get upset because the big pimp slaps them around.
Right,
So that's
Bob.
my take on that, back.
That's it's great, Bob. But I'm just taking all of that in, and you just brought something to mind here. Is that when you got all these particular guys out there like that, I heard this Allen guy said he asked Obama to set aside $50 billion for black entrepreneurships or something to that effect. He said that, I think it was on that Breakfast Club show that he did. And I'm just wondering, I just think, Bob, and sometimes I think out loud, and if these guys were so interested in trying to do something to help and uplift the black man and to increase their wealth, they could make more money by catering to blacks and getting blacks to respect them. And you know that we as a people will follow people who do right about us, Bob. You've seen that in the past. And if they, rather than begging, and we ask for reparation, we're not begging there. That's owed to us right there. But instead of these guys trying to say, "Oh, the government set this up," I mean, they put together a few hundred millions of dollars, 100 million or 50 million or whatever amount. They could set aside that amount of money. They could start their own bank and put them up in each city and say, well, we're going to make sure that these banks work to help blacks start businesses where we're also going to be part owners of those businesses in the community. And if they did that, it's sort of like, and they duplicated that, it'll be the same thing as how McDonald's said, hey, rather than me trying to make all these hamburgers, why don't I duplicate this and put another one over there and another one, a store over there and another store there, rather than trying to do everything in one store, And they could be doing something very similar, Bob. I mean, to help the black communities and to create capital for entrepreneurs. And they also can have ownership in that venture as well, which if they duplicated that, they would be worth billions in a few years, because we talking about going to all the major cities in the United States, duplicating this, where blacks live in by the hundreds of thousands, and there's 40 million of us. I mean, can't they see how much money they can make from that? I mean, he can still continue to do his media stuff out there and do all of that, but at the same time, he has another arm over here. I see so many businesses that diverse their holdings. And this is another way to create and give back to the communities and help build up these black communities, our cities, our inner cities. And even get to the point where you have blacks moving back into those cities. but like you say, Bob, they're not thinking like that yet. But every time something happened, they're always coming around and crying on the shoulders and making all these here accusations against these other people, which might be valid, and everything, complaining about that, and they get, and in the end, like Allen, he got all this money, but I haven't heard him come back and say anything about what he did with the funds that he got. How was that? How did that contribute anything? Not that I want him to give me anything, but I mean, but to do something in the black community with some of the funds. I don't mean go in there and I'm talking about do something that's going to create economic uh, uh, viability in that community. That's what I like to see them do, Bob. And whether or not they'll do it, I don't know. But don't come around. I mean, you don't looking for my sympathy, so you can go out there and become a fat cat, or even bigger fat cat. Or how you put that, Bob? The bigger N-word syndrome. You know, they just get bigger and bigger, but they still the N-word, because they otherwise, if they wouldn't be having these problems, would they?
Well, see, as I listened, it occurs to me, uh, you don't, pimps don't care what happens to the people that they're selling their women to. The only thing they're concerned about is their money, and that's what these guys are. That's all they're concerned about is their money. They're
Yeah, but
just little pimps. That's all,
well,
and they don't, and we, the ones that are the hoes out here, we don't want to admit that that's our role to go out there and sell it, make that money for the pimp, and give it up. Because those guys didn't get that money just by because they had friends. They got that money off their hoes. Us, the American Negroid.
well,
And we'll keep on being their hoes.
Bob, it goes back to when I think about how Ford Motor Company they got started there in Dearborn, Detroit, and what they did to they created this factory. They did created the assembly line, and he started paying people $5 a day. You know, now how hard would that be for these people to go in and create something like that in the black communities? You know, so you can help start to creating better schools in the community through people start working, they start taking care of the kids better. You know, they have jobs, they won't be out there worrying about where they're going to get the next meal from, or worrying about welfare and all that kind of stuff. And these people, these guys like them, and that's not just the three we named there, Bob. There's a bunch of them out there. There's the Puff Daddies, the Diddies or whatever, the Jay-Z's, the Beyonce's, you name them out there, Bob. They're all over the place. The LeBrons. And you know, some people even get confused and they say LeBron's, he built this school in Akron. That guy didn't build that school. He just used his name on that school. I did a little research on that, Pop. But all the blacks up there think that this guy, LeBron's, spent his money on that school. That was paid by public dollars, Bob. And they put his name on there. But they go around and do stuff like that. but that's not really helping anything. But these guys can come together, man. And if they don't do that, I don't see too much. I mean, who else is out there? Well, there's a lot of black businessmen out there, legitimate, straight businessmen that got a lot of money too, Bob. Like the Bob Johnson. I mean, I know he's got a lot of car dealerships and stuff like that. I don't know how many blacks he's hired, you know, how many he's trained to manage those stores, are those car dealerships, or is he training any at all, or he just hiring the other Caucasoid people to do it, you know? Usually
Right.
that's what they do. So I mean, but he got any training programs for the black youth coming out of college, majoring in business and whatever, accounting, whatever they may be. And he has other things. He got hotels as well, Bob. Is he part of any Langston uh, uh, hospitality training there? Is he got any input with them? What he's hiring students coming out of there to go through his internship, to learn how to manage his hotels throughout the world,
Right.
I mean, I'm just wondering what these guys do, Bob. I mean, I know there's 40 million of us, and we won't know that. But I mean, when I see so many, when I ride around and see so many of us, Bob, that's in dire need of jobs. I mean, training. I say shit. Some, you know, there's a lot to be done here, Bob. And these guys, they are finally gotten there. They would not. I'll tell you one thing: 90% of them, Bob, or 99, maybe even 99%, would not be there had not it been for the effort of poor guys like Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and Hampton, and you name them, Abernathy, you name all those guys that came, going back to Marcus Garvey, Du Bois. All those people had something to do to build up to where we are today. And these guys here got to carry the ball. It's not just for you, buddy. It's for everybody. I mean, you got to be able to do your share. Everybody else did the heavy lifting so you could get there. And then you come back to us when you start having problems. But you're not doing anything for us when everything is clear sailing.
Right.
So I'm just trying to bring out some things here, Bob, for our audience to try to get a better understanding of what these people are doing. Our so-called wealthy elites. We've always had elites in the black race. That's why you had the Jack and Jills, the Boule, you name them. They always been there, Bob, and want to be different and separate from the man in the streets. But you know what? It's just like you said, they just bigger niggas.
That's right. And as soon as somebody calls them a bigger nigger, they get upset and they want you to come to their help. But
Yeah.
that's the way uh that's the way the game is played in America. And I see it so clearly today. That's why it's so amusing to be able to identify the pimps because we know who the hoes are, and we uh, see them climb the ladder because you got pimps at the first rung and you got pimps at the top, and the pimps at the top every now and then if I put my hand on a rung and they don't want me to get there like some of these guys that you name,
Yeah.
they'll stomp on my hand, let
Right.
me fall back down. And that's what they complaining about. The guy stepped on my fingers too hard. See,
Yeah.
they and so they go back and try to get the hoes to join up and help them defeat the guy at the top. But that's not about to happen.
Oh, Bob, you know what that's called? You remember in high in corporate America out there, and even in government as well, they had what they used to call, and they still have it, called the glass ceiling.
Right.
You think you going up, but you go hit that ceiling right there. And it's a prime example of that with that guy, what's his name? Byron Allen. He made the statement that they told him, "Do you think?" So we're not going to have you. We're not going to make you another Bob Johnson. You know what? You know, like Bob Johnson had made his billions off of BET. You know, and they said, "No, we're not going to let you. We're not going to let that." So in other words, they're telling him, "Here's your glass ceiling right here. Be happy with what you got." But
That's right.
but once he won, but once everything started happening and he persevered, so I don't know what extent or what kind of award he got or anything like that, Bob. But apparently, he got something from that. And just like the same thing, Kanye West got something because he came around and had a lot of blacks to start shouting and supporting him on all these different podcasts. So now you got our boy Ice Cube doing the same thing. So I mean, whatever works, it works for him. And I'm not going to knock these guys, Bob. I think they're great entrepreneurs. Some was just happened to be at the right place at the right time. They had a talent or whatever. And like you said, Byron Allen, he's an extraordinary businessman. And but you got to have a conscience. You got to have God. You know, and it talks about that in I think it's Romans chapter. I think it's. I'm gonna see. Can I find that right quick, Bob? But maybe I can't. Yeah, Romans chapter 12:5. You know, and it kind of and it just hit me today when I heard that. And this verse goes, Bob, it says, so we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members one of another. So it is with Christ's body. We are many parts of one body, and we all belong to each other. In the same way, we who are many are one body in Christ and individually members of one another. I mean, that's trying to tell us something there, Bob. That if we looked at ourselves like that, we would see that we are just one body, but we are many people in one body. Why can't we be like that, Bob? We are many of us. But why can't we just we'll come together and be one body to achieve for the whole, you know? And this doesn't just apply to African Americans. This is for Africans and all of Africa that's in the Africa diaspora. You know, the ones that's over in Africa itself.
Well, the reason to answer that question, why we can't be like that, is because of the 8 billion people on the planet, in my opinion, probably less than 3 billion believe that kind of stuff. You know, so you got 5 billion that don't believe that kind of stuff, and they see it as nonsense. Now, they may render lip service to it, you know, in order to get themselves in a better position, but they don't believe that in their hearts, you see. And that's what I mean when I say that 88% of the Caucasoid in America, and I'm just talking about America. I'm not I'm talking about 340 million people. They know they will render lip service on Sunday and other so-called holy days. The fact that the Negroid is a human being, but in their heart, in their heart of hearts, you're nothing but a low-life nigger. That's the bottom line for me. And so when you read things, when I read stuff, and I read scripture as well, I see that and I ask myself that question: why can't people who profess to be Christians live this way?
That's
Because they
right.
really don't believe that.
That's right, Bob,
They,
and that's why I say I preface that to African Americans because I mean we got all these churches all over the country, man. We right there in some cities we got 1,000 churches. You probably got how many? 1,500 up there, right? And what the message says. I mean, what it says, Bob, is that the body we are talking about is Christ's body of chosen people. Each of us finds our meaning and function as a part of his body. But as a chopped off finger or a cut off toe, we won't amount to much, would we? So since we find ourselves fashioned into all these excellently formed and marvelously functioning parts in Christ's body. And that's the same thing as with black people. We look at we always go around talking about, well, we're not monolithic. Well, true enough, we're not. Everybody got all their different opinions. We're all different people, and every black person, white person, whatever person you are. So we all individually with different beings created in the image of God. So saying that, we are all different, the black people. So we got different opinions. But if we come together as one body, like Christ's body, and function together to achieve a goal. And what is that goal? Can't they see what's wrong with the black people in this country, Bob? We got to get it together, man. And why is it that a select few out there has made they saying there's now 8 or 10 billionaires or black billionaires in the United States, Bob. So if there's 8 or 10 billionaires, got to be hundreds of multi-millionaires, and even many more, thousands maybe of other black millionaires. And you mean to say with all this here wealth like that, they can't come together? I mean, you don't have to get them all together, Bob. The only thing you have to get the most influential and the most wealthy together. That's all they have to do. But it's been great discussing this here, Bob, and I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank the audience for listening. I want them to share and comment on this video and let us know what you think. Give us some feedback here regarding this here. Ice Cube, Kanye West, Byron Allen, and all the other blacks like that, and what we discussed here, and how they come. As Bob, how did you put it? When their fingers get crunched or stepped on,
right.
they, they come
Yeah, they
running.
run to get their hose.
Yeah, yeah, they run back and want us to all to jump on the bandwagon. But once they get all free and clear, like for instance, you don't hear anything from guys like Denzel Washington, Sammy Davis Jackson, any of those other guys out there making mega bucks, because they go along with the program. They don't have any problem.
Right.
So I mean, they ain't tried. They get their millions in. They just keep right along stepping and living their life. And they'll give some speeches and stuff and say you got to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. and keep going, you know. And and look at your buddy, one of the guy who could have done so much for the blacks. He's living in his he got 3 or 4 mansions. He got an island somewhere. He got a mansion in the where you said that place called, Bob, the Vineyards up there in
Where's that?
Martha
Uh,
Vineyards or somewhere.
oh, Martha's Vineyard. Yeah.
Yeah, you said you used to live up there, right?
Well, I didn't live there, but I've been there several times. I know my father-in-law had a home there.
Oh, okay. And then you have this guy could have done some marvelous things for the blacks, man. When he had
Uh-huh.
that, I don't care whether he say, oh well, he could only. I hear people actually you bring this up to blacks. They say, well, he only could do what they let him do. I said, well, but why did he get out there and that guy had so much discretionary income funds that he could have moved over to help blacks that people just don't understand that, Bob. But anyway, we want to thank you again, Bob, and people don't forget to subscribe and comment on this.